Alright, it should be just over this hill now. There it is. Yep. Okay. Come on, Pablo, just a little bit further. Hello and welcome to the Dianite Temple slash a Dwarven City slash I don't know what to call this project because it's two things in one. I guess it's a Dwarven City with a temple in it. So yeah, Isolation Island has been basically confirmed to be a Mionite spin-off. So I was inspired to build something. It's loosely based on an older build that I did on my server ages ago. But I lost the world files and everything for that. So I was like, I'm going to redo that, but better because it's been like 4 years and I'm good at building now. So, yes, welcome to the Dianite Temple. It says Dianite right there in the intergalactic alphabet or whatever the enchantment language is. It's a little bit of a shithole on the outside. You know, dwarves aren't very much for the exterior sort of thing. So there's just sand building up everywhere, but you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna be walking through this on foot, not flying around, because I think it'll be much better to get a look at the scope of this build from the ground level. And there's the eye with the spear. There's a bunch of shit piled up out here, don't worry about that. So this is the giant freaking underground city slash temple. I'm gonna look at the city part first, and I'll go to the throne room last because I like the throne room the most. The city is the coolest looking. It's so big that the sky is showing through the world because I haven't loaded these chunks yet. Dear God. Alright, so before I even... You didn't see that. Before I start, I do want to add that, hey, Tom, Jordan, Orion, let me build for Isolation Island, please. Come on, man. I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free. I don't give a shit about the money. I'm just bored. And yeah, there's a big cart over there. There's some housing spotted around in the main cavern, but there's not a lot of it. There's just a few houses here and there. Okay, so this is the main cavern. Like I said, there's giant chains. There's some pipes and pillars and stuff. It's pretty typical Dwarven. I'm actually gonna fly down real quick to just... The bridge isn't super detailed, but dwarves are very basic. So yeah, I mean, you can't even see any of that stuff when you're just walking anyway. But I did detail it a little bit. So if we walk over this way, we can see there's the houses a little bit closer. And down this passageway, it's a very short passageway, we enter the first layer of the city. I say the first layer because there's a chunk that's like twice as big that way. This portion is kind of like a little bit of a slummier district. It's a bit more run down. There's some collapsed bits here that have gone across the road that they haven't fixed yet because these houses are just abandoned anyway. None of these buildings have interior because I go somewhere else, so don't worry about that yet. It would take me literally like another 2 weeks just to do all the interiors of all these houses because there's so many freaking houses. So I didn't do that. Instead, I just left the exteriors because, you know, whatever, looks good enough. If this was like an official server project, I probably would have done interiors, but you know, whatever. There's a big forge. You can tell it's the forge because it's the biggest building and it's got a bunch of forge shit outside. A little lava lake with the cog wheel that powers the interior machines in there. Yeah, this basically just goes. I'm using the actual resource pack too, by the way. That way it looks proper. There's some drains in the floor, you know, typical Dwarven stuff. Now, if we go this way into the proper city, there's actually another tunnel on that side, so I'll probably just do a big loop around. But here we enter the city proper, which is a much larger cavern. There's a bunch of layers. There's some shop stalls. They don't technically need canopies over them, but it looks better if they do. And the way I logic that out in universe is it's eye-catching. I don't know, you know, fuck it. It looks good. Who cares? There's a bunch of houses up here. There's like a statues dotted around every now and then. I don't actually think there's a way down from up here. The dwarves all grow mushrooms in their farms, by the way, because dwarves eat mushrooms, as we all know. I actually think that is a thing that was started. It might have been a Tolkien thing, but it might have actually started with Dwarf Fortress, which would be funny if it did. But I figured I'd throw in a reference there. There's another farm over here. This is basically just a tiny side cavern over here with like a lot of these houses have like upper floors that connect to the upper levels as well. Because I figured that'd be very convenient. I'm gonna go up this staircase first. So yeah, just a bunch of more houses. There's a lot of clutter around. They decorate, you know, they just kind of stack their stuff outside. They don't need to worry about the elements. I mean, oh no, my stuff's gonna get rained on, you know, so why not store stuff outside of your house, like on your porch, you know? And dwarves trust each other enough to not give a shit about that. There's this house down there who's just got his own little nook. This level's pretty empty. It's just basically got farms and storage, but it's another access point to up there. And the stairway comes down here. This goes back into the rest of the city, like I said, but there's more houses down here. There's these lava cracks that they've glassed over because they think they look cool. AKA, I think they look cool. Dwarves, I imagine they like colors because, you know, everything is very bland underground, so they probably want to liven things up with colored cloth and stuff that they acquire through trading. And yeah, you can see out into the original cavern. There's a few stalagmites and stuff hanging down in here. This one, they've cleared them out. All right, let's go back down. I'm just gonna fly temporarily to speed this up. That's basically the city. I mean, that's all there is to the city. It's just a bunch of houses. I mean, you know, what do you expect? Onto the least whelming part of the build now, because well, there's some more houses there, but it's just a mine. I mean, that's all there is to this. It's just a huge mine. It branches off in several different directions. There's scaffolding hanging up everywhere. They've set up support beams, and it's a mine. What do you want? I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one because it's just basically just a huge cavern. And I terraformed all this by hand. Well, not by hand, but with World Edit, which is basically manually. So it's a huge cavern. I made all this. I made just a big square, and then I rounded it out with like an airbrush and using sand to build up the corners, and it was a whole convoluted process. But onwards we go. And this whole build, by the way, only took a week and a half. I made the world file 2 weeks ago, but then I took like a 4-day break, so week and a half-ish. But now we enter the throne room, which would double as the altar where you would pray to Dianite. You got these massive wooden doors. You have the giant eye up there, huge pillars and the balustrades, banners and the tables with their offerings. It's a very large room with like a domed roof. It's like the trimming up there. It's a very large room. And then off of this room, in both directions, there is more stuff. I'll quickly take a look down this way, because this way is the least impressive. I want to end on the cool stuff, so that's why I'm kind of ordering it in this way. There's a huge dining hall in here with chandeliers. Bunch of tables. There's a large table for Dianite and his officers to sit, you know, because, you know, we gotta be more important than everybody else. And then in here, there is the kitchen area, which, I mean, it's a pretty nice kitchen. It's a little bit small. I don't know. Making it any bigger felt weird, though, because then it's just a lot of repetitive stuff, because all the kitchen needs is a bunch of stoves and a bunch of counters. So all I would be doing if I made this bigger was adding more stoves or more counters. It'd look kind of dumb. And then these side tunnels, there's a bread oven. I'll just fly down them really quick. These side tunnels connect to the hallway that goes into the throne room and then back into the city here. This is the thing I told you not to worry about earlier. So if I fly back through here, you know, oh, there's also like a freezer in there with frozen meat and stuff. So if I fly all the way back in the other direction now, you can also see there's like the giant chalices with like the smoke pouring out. The massive throne with the gilding and the points and stuff. It looks cool. There's some random stuff again stored just in the corners back here. There's a bunch of rooms that aren't actually rooms, you know, they're facades or whatever. And then you enter the library, which is another huge room. I had a hard time filling up the space and making it look good, but I think I managed. Putting these tables on the edges of the bookshelves really helped out a lot, especially when it came to lighting. You got these big arches, hanging lights. I didn't want there to be any torchlight in this room because this is the only room that's got a lot of wood. So it wouldn't make sense for the dwarves to have fire lighting everything up just attached to wooden beams and shit. And it doesn't actually catch fire, obviously, but like, you know, I imagined this would be one of the few rooms where they use electrical lighting. Which is why I'm using the end rods, because they look like torches or whatever. Or they look like light bulb things. But yeah, this is the main throne room again. It's huge build, and I'm loving it. It took quite a while. Like I said, about a week and a half if you cut out the dead time where I wasn't doing anything. I'm just gonna fly around and like poke around at some of the details now. There's this big cog work. It's got a pulley system built into it. There's some piping here and here. There's these giant chains that are broken hanging from the ceiling. You can just imagine whatever those would have been used for. There's all the stalagmites and stalactites and stuff. The big Dionite symbol hanging over the doorway. I imagined it was like a perversion of the scales of balance, as far as like the general profile of the symbol goes. But then with like these would be blades, you know. I don't know. It's kind of edgy, but Dionite's kind of edgy. So what do you want from me? These giant, these obsidian statues with the dragon heads on the side. It is a very large build. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice the giant anvils. Probably didn't get pointed out. The statues. This one over here is like been buried into the mountainside, and it's got a lot of sand built up and it's cracks and stuff because it's kind of fallen into disrepair. This one is in much better condition, but it's still got some sand build up. I made all of this terrain in World Painter. So this is all like a handmade terrain, basically. Giant lava lake to the side because I thought that'd be a cool way to fill up some of this space. Give it a nice little feature. And then the road is obviously just made of terracotta. But yeah, this is the build. And I made this, like I said, a week and a half. So Tom, Orion, you know, Jordan, Declan, anyone who sees this, you know, if you wanna hit me up, I'm totally down to just go and build for free. I ran a Minecraft server for like 4.5 years, so I'm good at building this kind of stuff really quickly. Because we used to do like weekly events, so I'd have to crank out something like this every 2 weeks for like 30 plus people to run through. So I'm really good at quickly building this kind of stuff. I also did some commission work for the Yogscast a while back. I'll put some screenshots of that on screen now. I basically rebuilt Yog Labs from the ground up. It hasn't made it into any videos yet because they've been really busy because they had all that drama go down, and then they had a convention, and then Jingle Jam, which is their like December like charity stream thing. So it just got really busy. It hasn't been used yet, but it exists, and I'm pretty proud of that build. It's a pretty good build. But yeah, I guess that's about it. I'm just gonna kind of fly off into the distance and throw more screenshots onto the screen while I ramble. See ya. Yeah.